Hello there. So Reddit made a concerning change. In fact, it is just another in a long line of concerning changes. Yet people really don't have much of a choice, because if you want some kind of voices on the internet, Reddit is pretty much the place to go. Its monopoly is unquestionable. But also, even if you look at the alternatives, they are not that great either. So let's see. Today we are rolling out a new enforcement action across the site. Historically, the only person action for posting violating content was the user who posted the content. The Reddit ecosystem relies on engaged users to downvote bad content, who says what bad is, and report potentially violative content. This not only minimizes the distribution of the bad content, who says what bad is, but this also ensures that the bad content is more likely to be removed, right? So they're using the same word that can be taken very subjectively. Just make sure that you downvote the bad content, and the bad content, the bad content. On the other hand, upvoting bad or violating content interferes with the system. So starting today, users who, within a certain time frame, upvote several pieces of content banned for violating our policies will begin to receive a warning. We have done this in the past for quarantine communities and found that it did not help to reduce exposure to bad content. So we are experimenting with this site-wide. They literally used bad content 5 times. This will begin with users who are upvoting violent content, but we may consider expanding this in the future. Right. I suppose you can take violent content. That would be a little bit more clear, especially if you take it more literally. But if we really expand on violent content, then you can get real creative. Especially because you can say it in a way that is not explicit, but others might still get it. But at that point, it is very much up to the interpretation of the authority to enforce the rules. And it's a little bit rich coming from Reddit that they're doing this, because the only people who are bigger dicks than the users are the mods. In addition, while this is currently warn only, we will consider adding additional actions down the road. I used to, well, I guess you can see me logged in, but I used to make comments on Reddit. And I definitely reevaluated that habit of mine. Especially if you try to make topics, you might just get rejected because well, I'm just gonna say it simply. The mod didn't like it. Either the auto mod or just a human mod, possibly. So you might get the impression that you get more of a balanced take on Reddit, and that would be untrue. There are a lot of topics you can make, there are a lot of comments you can make, but well, we know that the culture of a community is not just what gets posted, but what is engaged with. Voting comes with responsibility. So you, dear viewer, have to decide what is bad content, inappropriate content. No. It's even more vague than that. Bad content. And if you happen to be upvoting bad content, then I guess you're bad and you get a warning, at least for now. And if you're real bad, then you might get the ultimate punishment of being kicked off Reddit. This will have no impact on the vast majority of the users, as most already downvote or report abusive content. It is everyone's collective responsibility to ensure that our ecosystem is healthy and that there is no tolerance for abuse on the site. Right. Now, to be fair, I don't upvote or downvote anything. I guess I'm not gonna be changing that anytime soon. No report anything. But I suppose I mostly deal with like already popular content. So those who sort by new might see things that I don't. Does this take into account edits? What if someone edited violent content after it was voted? Right. So great call out. We'll make sure to check this before the warnings are sent. Have you even not considered this before the message? They don't make that many messages. They make like half a dozen a year. You mean to say that this is the first time this occurred to you as possible? I feel like that should have been on the radar as a possibility when you guys started kicking this idea around. Yeah, it does very much feel like it. This is mods make vague rules, admins make vague rules, and they just do whatever the fuck they want. Especially the terminology. Violent content, maybe, but most of all, bad content, definitely. You can just do whatever you want. I see the benefit, but could it be possible that makes people paranoid about voting? Yeah, especially to be safe when they are not sure if it counts. The ratio between viewers and voters can already be so high. Will you be monitoring to see if there's an effect like that? This is very interesting because this could mean that humans will engage with the content less, so they're gonna be more like me, a spectator, right? I don't upvote, I don't downvote, I don't do anything, I don't reply. And who's gonna be doing that? Know that some humans will be doing that, but it's gonna be more regulated, or I mean, more up to the bots, right? So if people are gonna be engaging with the content less, then the bots are gonna be counting for more, so they can just upvote things. This is exactly what will happen, given Reddit has developed a recent habit of removing a bunch of things which don't violate rules. The chilling effect isn't a mistake, it's the intent. This is a slippery slope. Since the inception, Reddit has relied on the users to upvote or downvote content. Now you want to regulate content and punish any user that interacts with it? What about movies? There are violent movies. Will those upvotes get a user strike? If Reddit is told to decrease the amount of nude images from consenting adults, will we be punished for upvoting the content? What about the subreddit for guns? A gun is a violent weapon, so are you going to give a warning to a user that upvotes a post about an old gun that is being restored? Where does it end? Either document exactly what content is and isn't acceptable and do the responsible thing and remove the content yourselves, or let the site work as it intended. It is your site and your terms of service, but Lemmy and Dig are looking better day by day. But I suspect most users have never heard of those alternatives, and sadly, rightfully so, because they are pretty much irrelevant. No longer the front page of the internet, upvote something like war footage and get a warning like I'm in some kid at school. Good point. Will users in Ukraine a war video report get a warning for upvoting illegal actions done by Russian soldiers? What would be considered news and what would be considered to be violent? Well, first of all, if this is the rule, then this doesn't even make sense, right? Because now they are thinking about punishing the users, but what about those who actually post this stuff, right? Will they punish them? You might say like, oh yeah, of course we're gonna punish the I don't know, Bob here who posts the violent, whatever violent is, content. Or the bad content, whatever bad is. Yet you might see other parties that are much, much bigger posting the bad content. So, for example, any news site, wouldn't they be considered a spreader of violent content? Notice how the admin failed to respond. That's because they didn't consider this and will find that it's easy to overregulate content that isn't violent. My somewhat more cynical take that would be, just based on the terminology used, bad content, bad content, bad content, bad or violent content, and of course, bad content. This pretty much means that you just want to do whatever you want, right? Can I talk about my hunting trip? What about that story where the bear attacked me and I killed it? It's more than just slippery. It's ignorant as fuck from the admin team. It is intentional. I don't like the prevailing view that, oh, other people are just stupid. They're just doing the self-interested power grab, and they're just doing it because they're stupid, man. Yet the other approach would be that, let's just look at things, assuming that what they want to do is exactly, what they're doing is exactly what they want to do. Now, there could be exceptions, but in those cases, and this is a very important distinction, you tell them once, and like, oh crap, I don't want to do that. It would take informing at most once. It's not ignorant, it's on purpose, they don't care. They do care, but not about what you care about. Could you please clarify exactly how do you define violent content? He can't, he doesn't wanna. Will I get warned for upvoting an anime fight scene clip just because it portrays violence? What about upvoting war footages? There are several subreddits dedicated to sharing combat war footages. It'll be really helpful if you try to be a little more specific about what is actually meant by violent content. Additionally, I'd like to understand the specific duration you consider a certain time frame. Yeah, it's so fucking vague. And the approximate threshold for several pieces of content. Right. Well, I can answer to this question very easily. I guess the rule is that you should just forget about upvoting and downvoting things. That is out. And if you can live without Reddit, that would be better. Allow me to clarify. The same poorly designed and thought out processes that suspend mods who report vote abuse, that suspend mods in mod mail for responding to users who post violent content, that remove innocuous content all over the site, will now suspending you for your votes on the site. In light of recent events and shifting attitudes toward the emerging Gilded Age oligarchy and the general support of folk like Luigi, the timing and vagueness of this absolutely feels like an attempt at stamping out any conversation aimed at dismantling the power structures taking root. Am I certain of this? Absolutely not. Does this seem highly plausible? It does. I'm thinking about this more. Upvoting doesn't always necessarily mean I agree with the statement. It can be something like I feel this is important to increase visibility on the statement. This is a good take, because a Reddit hive mind brain would be thinking, me like this, I'm upvoting this, right? Or me no like it. But for example, just to bring up another example, a marketer would not be thinking of this, but they just want to market their stuff, right? They want more eyeballs. And in the same vein, you might personally, because that's the only way to really deem it, but let's say that you personally deem something bad content, right? Completely subjective. Your take, bad content or violent content, but you personally think that others should see it. So just to bring up a popular and a common example, let's just consider the Tank Man image, right? Would you say that is violent content? I think one can easily argue that it is, especially if you consider what happened like 5 seconds later. But should people see it? Almost certainly yes. Some people also upvote things to mark what they have read. Banning people for upvoting anything assumes intent behind the person hitting the upvote button, which may or may not be the case. What does this, in effect, is manipulate user behavior, which feels gross on a lot of levels. Yet, let's even suppose that you are not engaging with this game at all. You're still pretty much influenced by this forum, which is heavily moderated in some way. Now, you can argue that this moderation can be nice in some aspect, because maybe some things you don't want to see. And I would be more on board with this. YouTube is also somewhat popular. Know that there could be many reasons for its popularity, but one of which would be that it is more moderated in a possibly reasonable way. Although you can argue with me here, but that would not be the point. And other sites could be like anything goes, right? But that is not acceptable, possibly for all, and some could be just straight illegal. Now, that is easy to realize. You say like, okay, and illegal stuff, that should not be there. But anything else, that's kind of up to the site. Similar to how quarantine communities work, will there be some sort of, are you sure you want to upvote this content? Voting before you vote? Of course not. This is a purposely vague rule being implemented in order to ban and suspend users that post wrong thing. I just got one of these warnings. I don't even know what the violent content was. I'm Canadian. All I've been upvoting lately is non-violent support for or news about Canada. Or is upvoting a news article about Trump wanting to annex us violent? Well, if he wants to, well, it sounds like annexing is a violent thing to do. So you should be just burying that article. This rule is ridiculous. Anything truly violent is usually removed within moments anyways. This warning is completely useless without telling the user what the content was. Even then, given the fact I'm confident I didn't upvote anything that should fall into this category, it looks like we're heading into a dangerous censorship. That's always been the intent. You know how when you get banned, Reddit links you to your comment that got you banned? Huh? But they also removed the comment, so you have no idea what you were actually banned for. And the admins are all bots and will reply follow-up messages. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, when I used to make comments on Reddit in the past, one of my accounts got, well, not like banned forever, but like suspended for, I don't know, like a week or like a month or something. And my comment that was real bad boy was me just being harassed by multiple people, including a mod, for, drumroll, not posting anything bad, but not posting something that was a popular information on that particular subreddit. So if you're the kind of person who possibly listens to other people and realize that they possibly don't know something, or they could be mistaken about something, like, oh yeah man, I'm gonna do you a solid and I'm gonna correct you. Well, my life experience says that they will probably not like that. Who chooses the definition of violent content? It's easy. What if the mod feels like banning? But not just violent, because violent can be taken more literally, right? Although we did enumerate that just because a content is violent or can be considered violent, that doesn't mean it should be buried. But what about bad content? Imagine violent comments towards trans people and violent comments toward billionaires will be given wildly different treatment. I really hope I'm wrong, but the way things are going these days, I have a bad feeling. Yeah. Violent against the poor, that's okay. In fact, you might even argue that what are ads? I mean, if you just look at the ads here, I have them disabled, but there could be real scammy ads on Reddit. Now, to be fair, that really applies to every single site, almost certainly. And it really depends on your definition of violence here, because we can make it more abstract. And if I expand it a little bit, Reddit would need to shut itself down. In fact, most subreddits would need to shut themselves down. And maybe not most, but I can think of some big ones. Personally, I think that possibly the least bad use case for Reddit right now would be somewhat of a technical Reddits, where nothing really possibly controversial happening or violent, so it is not heavily moderated. That's my point. And anything that is actively a battleground is a little bit harder to love. The law binds who it doesn't protect and protects who it doesn't bind, and all that. I was warned over violent content for making a joke about eating the rich back when that submarine imploded. Reddit is incredibly biased and this will rapidly devolve into pure shit. I had my suspicions. It had something to do with the class war. Now, the thing is, about that submarine incident, if you really were hell-bent on just saving a couple people, you wouldn't have to go anywhere. You can just find them on the streets, right? You probably wouldn't even have to walk literal minutes. Of course, that would not be considered violent. So pushing them there and watching them die is fine. But if some idiots take a dinky submarine, then it's a global crisis. They must be saved. Now, like this guy, perhaps I might not make the argument that their life does not matter. But does their life matter more? And if you say yes, almost certainly you're saying that because they have more money. Your house, your rules, of course. You're well within your rights to run your platform the way you see fit. But as a paying user and as a mod in a couple busy communities, this makes me question how much I want to be engaging with Reddit now. Surely you're familiar with the speech concept of chilling effect. I don't want to be wearing my mod hat every moment I'm browsing Reddit. Sometimes I just want to be a reader. This policy is essentially telling me I need to keep that critical editorial mod hat on 1% of the time. That's an interesting angle, because I'm not even engaging with the upvotes and downvotes. So I am an irresponsible user by this admin's and this mod's, not this guy, but the posters, standards. So if I see the bad content, I will not upvote it, but I will not downvote it either. This seems like a bad move. People often upvote to express support for the sentiment of a work, not the content of it. I can see a case where, given Reddit bad history with the subject, someone could write a violent, but otherwise innocuous comment like, pedos like this deserve to be shot, under a legitimate case of that, but have their comment get removed regardless, as it is technically arguing for violence against a group for a trade. Also, it's fairly common to see men hating women on Reddit. And I don't say this with something for a hat, but you can see it with your own two eyes. Will those guys get banned? All tens of millions of them? Anyway, he was mainly covering points we already discussed. I see this not backfiring at all whatsoever. Since you can apparently automatically detect the violent content, why not just remove it before anyone can vote on it? This is sneakily a good question, though. Because I saw it that you possibly had a topic that was seemingly neutral, but it was later found out to be what the mods would call bad content by their definition. Essentially, they banned the topic later. Once they found it to be unacceptable for them, because it didn't go the way that they kind of prefer it. Now, let me clarify that there could be, or I would say that almost certainly, most of the time, there would be legit cases of this. That, let's just say, some idiot commenters possibly twisted the topic into something that it was never supposed to be. And although subjective, you can argue that the decision was justified. But you also have to keep in mind that the mod alone decides what is acceptable. So you can have a possible content that you and I find acceptable, but the mod does not. So the mod, without even justification, they're just gonna lock the topic, or possibly not even allow it, but let's just say that possibly it was left up for a while, maybe they found it later. They're gonna lock the topic, they're gonna warn both of us, if even only that, and we receive no explanation. So, real life example, for sake of this case, could be like some guy sitting on the park bench, I don't know, eating their sandwich, and some cop comes up, kicks them in the nuts, and arrests them for looking to abduct some kids off the playground and being a total weirdo. Yet that interpretation was entirely in their head. And you can certainly argue that this course of action could be justified if that guy was running around in only a trench coat, shouting "Muhaha, these kids are mine," while trying to run off with them, no doubt. But I'm just saying that even with good intentions, assumptions kind of will make you a tyrant. Hey, how about you get fucked? You're only a profitable venture because you're a vestige of the old internet where people could interact with each other without heavy-handed moderation and without algorithms that dictating the conversation. Sure, you suffer from it here, but the common threads are at least not directly manipulated. The more you mess with the formula, the faster you escalate your own decline as the platform. I kind of wish that was true. I kind of wish there was like a clear winning alternative to Reddit. I'm tempted to say that my alternative Reddit is no alternative. Because I kind of get to the point where AI is picking up a big part of why I kind of like Reddit. That it can give me some guidance about things. And I'm reaching more for AI. But of course, it may not be ideal in all use cases. But especially if you're looking for information, then oftentimes AI is a good replacement. I don't see any potential abuse here at all, especially with how all the tech bros cozy up with the current US government. Yeah, they look like a fucking coronation. You have the president, and you have a bunch of other rich guys just showing up, or presidents of companies. Well, rich guys and also influential, just showing up to, I don't know, kiss the ring, guys, I suppose. And then you have the richest man in the world as arguably the de facto president. So, yeah. Or at very least occupying a pretty strong position. This is a terrible idea when Reddit doesn't even enforce half of its rules consistently, and we are living in unprecedented times in regards to potential state violence. I don't even look at the rules. It is a total waste of time, and I'm gonna argue exactly why. Because those who enforce the rules basically make the rules. That's it. Otherwise, you can have just bots who enforce the rules perfectly, right? Now, I'm not saying that this is ideal, but essentially the alternative is that you have a bunch of humans who are basically just decide, yeah, whatever they like. And Reddit is pretty well known as a ridiculously racist, sexist platform and more, but possibly what they deem to be in a good way. Gotcha. Don't upvote anything ever again, cause Big Daddy Reddit is monitoring and sending it up to whoever wants it. I need a nice break from this anyway. And especially if the user can be traced back to a real person, then I guess you better be on your best behavior. What's next? A warning for downvoting positive content. Now you're getting it. So you could see like a forest fire. You gotta downvote that because that's violent content. That should be just buried. That is not a concern for humanity. I think that's upsetting in that way. No. And in the same vein, you essentially would be using upvote to try to gain favor with those who have influence. What's the point of having an upvote and downvote option if they are just going to police how you're allowed to use it? So this is your opportunity, mate, Brett. So you can use your possibly real name here and then upvote content that would make you more popular with your government and less popular with opposing wrong thinkers. Voting comes with responsibility. That's a funny word to use on Reddit. Will you all start using this thought process for all the horrible content, misinformation, inflammatory content, calls for violence? What about vote manipulation and voting bots? Oh, that's not violent. These are long-time issues, but haven't been solved. That's my theory, that it is intentional. If you have something that people really don't want it to work such a way, they would change it. Or at least they would attempt to change it very eagerly. Albeit such efforts could be indistinguishable from obfuscation. But even at that point, at best you can argue that they are utterly, hopelessly incompetent. Or the alternative explanation would be that they are doing exactly what they want. There is a very common prevailing fantasy these days that others could be doing the things that absolutely totally fucking sucks for you, but if you only inform them, then everything would be just peachy. But the unfortunate realization is that they're doing it because they fucking like it. Yeah, this pause is incredibly stupid, especially when you have a mod from conservative, a hive of Russian propagandists and literal lunatics in here applauding it. Warning and sanctioning accounts for the comments they like is idiotic. If it's not vote manipulation, it's just a way to police what people are thinking and feeling without actually moderating their side. I guess what we gotta have in like a few years, maybe like 3, that Reddit will be upvoting and downvoting the content you should be liking, the good content, and the bad content will be just gone. How about you actually enforce the toss first? I have no issue deleting my account. I value Reddit for what is upvoted and downvoted. You have no right to police upvotes, downvotes on toss violations you don't enforce. Yeah, we're just gonna leave out the bad content, but if you like it, then that's on you, man. Also, we say what bad. This is quite literally the worst idea I've ever seen from Reddit admins. Now that is saying a lot. Because just to go back to the very start, they didn't even think about the very first question anyone would have. So either they don't think or think you don't. And I've seen a lot. Going all in on forcing self-censorship by their standards. Well, it works for YouTube, so why not, am I right? Well, just be clear. You would not get reported and warned just for upvoting a video that YouTube actually recommended to you. So we're doing censorship and guilt by association now. Cool. Mind your upvotes, folks. The thought police will ban you for voting. We all know this is about bowing to Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Absolutely 100% beyond the shadow of doubt. Also protecting multimillionaire insurance executives after they bankrupt families and people by denying life-saving treatment to cancer patients. No, that's not violent, man. You must know that robbing people is business, but fighting those who rob the people is violence. This is why so many of us are leaving. Thanks for wrecking Reddit. It's turned into an absolute shell of what it once was, an absolute censored dumpster fire. It used to be somewhat great. It was so soft. It was more like, somewhat moderated, but mostly just do what you want kind of side. where freedom of expression and speech reigned, where people could build communities around common interest, share information, and learn from each other. More recently, I got suspended for correcting an inaccurate comment with a factual cited reply. My appeal was rejected. 25 years I've been a journalist. I've never been censored like that. You should be ashamed. Social media platforms like this thrive because of engaged users. Now I have to be scared to engage with something as inane as up and down vote buttons. Lol, it's a joke. I don't even know what you consider violent or bad content. Which means that whatever the mod feels like banning and whatever they are kind of paid to moderate away. Now, if you think that my take is a little cynical, you gotta keep in mind that Reddit is a business. People come over here, they see the ads, and also, most importantly, they see the right way to think. Frankly, I do not trust Reddit staff or bots to be capable of this kind of decision making without any kind of ridiculous bias. Well, that could be just personal experience or just having a brain. But in any case, you're right. I once reported a user who was spamming multiple subreddits with weird racist screeds saying certain entire countries and demographics of people should be nuked from existence, and Reddit told me not only was this guy's post fine, but that I would be punished if I continued to abuse the report system. This is one of the worst attempts at justifying censorship I have ever seen. This sounds like Peter Thiel's good behavior through surveillance. But good and bad are so subjective and so vague and so personal that it means nothing. Peter Thiel's good behavior means that whatever he likes you to do. And you probably don't like the sound of that. So when will conservative and every Trump subreddit that constantly calls for violence get warned? I think we both know the answer to that. More rules for D, not for me. Well, oh well. I can only see this ending poorly.